Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Help the Helpers. And we are going to begin our month of February that we've decided is about saying the unsayables, because several people have said, well, we talk about all kinds of things, but there are things that we can't talk about. And we just ignore those subjects. There are subjects that we can't approach. And so there was this kind of challenge in the air. Can focusing help us to say the unsayables? And I always think of focusing as this way of helping us to think the unthinkable and say the unsayable. And so we're going to take that challenge on and see how we do helping each other to think more and to say more and to be more in community with each other. So I would like to start with a little introduction that's a bit theoretical, but if you grab your cup of coffee, I think you'll find, or your cup of tea or whatever, I think you'll find it, what I'm going to say, from the psychoanalytic world, maybe a kind of grounding for our discussion. So let's see if I can do this. Liz is going to time me. Let's see if I can do it I can't do it in 1 minute, but we'll see. One thing I want to say about the unsayable is that it is very much connected with the unthinkable, right? There are certain things that we can't think. It will sort of have a feeling, but we can't fully think it. It doesn't get formulated. And the psychoanalysts refer to that as unformulated experience. It's the felt sense, right? But it doesn't come into language or thought. And the unthinkable then becomes unsayable. One of the starting points is that we need to recognize that since we are interaction, we don't think or understand inside ourselves. We think in relation. Thinking is a partnership experience. It's a communal experience. We can only think what is thinkable within our zeitgeist, in our community. Let's absorb that for a minute, because that was a sort of new idea for me, that we think individually, but we think within a field, within a framework. And we create language that enables us to think. And language also sort of structures our thinking. And then we need focusing to help us to think further than the language enables us to think. So what is unthinkable might be something just out of left field, whatever that really means in terms of sports, I'm not sure, but it's like way out there. And we have never recognized it, can't recognize it, nobody recognizes it. It's unthinkable because it doesn't occur to us within the framework that we're in. Something can be unsayable even if we have thought it, because it's threatening. It will disturb our connections. We may not even be able to think it. I don't know. Those of you who are older might remember the book, The Drama of the Gifted Child. Did anybody read that? Raise your hand. When I was a young person, everybody was reading The Drama of the Gifted Child, and it was like, one of the things about the unsayables is that when somebody says it, when somebody breaks through the field and says something, it's like, wow, oh my goodness, and everybody, it sort of catches fire. Well, this book was about how the most important experiences, shaping experiences that we have as children, often we don't experience because it's threatening to our environment. So we don't say them, we don't know them, we don't think them until we're in therapy. And then we're encouraged to feel into where these things go or how they arise. So that was a breakthrough. Wow, we haven't even had these experiences because we couldn't think them. It's sort of like what Gene Genlin says about the new was. He says, well, the person's was, I was angry as a child. Well, they didn't feel angry. What do you mean they were angry? There was an experience that could only be had when the field opened up. And that is often what therapy is the field opening up. So one thing that we've noticed, I think, is that when somebody is able to break that crust of unsayableness, of silence about something, there's a kind of burst of energy. It's like, oh, I never thought that, or how could she say that? And it could be all kinds of things that haven't been thought, or maybe have been thought, but nobody would dream of saying them. And somebody says it, and there's this sort of release. Sometimes there could be a kind of horror, like, oh, I said that. But there's a lot of energy in that. I think the good news about us as a community looking at the phenomenon of what's unsayable is that it is making us aware of how we as a community make what is able to be said. And as a group leader, I'm always aware of what can be said in this group. I don't want to limit what can be said because the energy, the life is in the relational freedom. But it doesn't just make energy to just blurt out all the unsayable things. I think you're boring and disgusting and I never liked you anyway, and I don't know what. But that doesn't give us relational freedom. That just makes everything more polarized. People feel like, oh, I have to, that person has to be bad in order for me to feel okay. But what focusing gives us is this focusing attitude of receptivity and curiosity of, oh, I really want to say this. And Ann Weiser Cornell always encourages people to say, something in me wants to say, because then that makes it much more particular. Something in me wants to say, shut the fuck up, or whatever. That enables us to open to that, because it's something that is a part of a process, the saying. So also let's keep in mind that saying is part of a process. How am I doing? Not good. I have to wind up here. The good news is that we as a community can determine how to say the unsayable and to be receptive to whatever anyone wants to communicate. And then we, as the community, form that in a way that we can hear it and receive it and give it back to the person. So that's my little introduction. Let's take a breath. There was so much there that I wanted to share in a tiny bit of time. Before we hear from our planning committee about different ways of approaching unsayableness, let's just take a minute to see what we want this word unsayable to mean. What is the experience of unsayableness, of silence around something? And maybe we can allow an incident, an image of something that we felt, it wasn't all thought out, but had an inkling of, that we knew just couldn't be said. It's almost like you stuff it back in. You keep it down. But then maybe when you're alone, you say, oh, I could never say that to so-and-so. Every relationship has things that you can say and things that you can't say. There are kind of these unconscious rules. Just see what that feels like. Sometimes you can't even really formulate for yourself the thing that would be unsayable. If you want, just jot down anything about that, about your own experience of unsayableness. And then I'm going to hand this over to Liz, who will be our first of our committee to say something about approaching the unsayables. Are you ready, Liz?
Yes.
Good.
Should I speak?
Yeah.
Okay. Good morning. I'm particularly interested in what feels unsayable in a focusing relationship, especially as compared to a therapist-client relationship. When you are in a focusing relationship, are you aware at any level, including, of course, a felt sense, of where you dare not tread? Many focusing relationships become friendships or friendship adjacent. How does this affect the freedom to verbalize what comes up when you are focusing? Who can I dare to be and still maintain this relationship? Who do I think I have to be in order to maintain this relationship? Of course, much is not said in a therapy relationship as well. But what the client is reluctant to say is part of therapy's grist for the mill. How does that work in a focusing relationship? Can a focusing partnership assist you in your own inner work if talking about the relationship itself is not part of the mix? Or is it part of the mix? Does a focusing relationship develop so that over time you feel more and more comfortable being your full self? Or do conditions still apply?
Oh, just take a minute to take that in. And thinking about all of the awkwardness of how hard it is to even say to my focusing partner, I need you to slow down, or I need you to turn your phone off, or things that our culture says we can say are so difficult to say, no less other things.
I think it has to do with identity itself.
Yeah.
Some of us, when we're in contact with anyone, have a feeling of what is expected of me here? Who am I supposed to be in this?
Mm,
And we are often different in different situations and in different relationships.
sure,
Right?
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Let's hear from Pauline.
Yeah, let's it's kind of like the challenge of being in the moment, and with what's alive in me, and kind of really rising. I don't know if it's a challenge, but it's really understanding where I am, and with a group of people that are alive and hearing me. And it's that then it's not even the unsayable, it's the unfathomable for me of what it is that I think that I am in this moment. And yet some ideal that I have, or some notion that I have, that it makes sense if I trust the staying with, that is my commitment to our way of being with each other, that there's a value in that I particularly am opening to more and more, that this is worthwhile. And it's not in what I say or what you, the other, receive. It's about the quality that's being communicated in the collective value in being together. So
Mm,
that isn't something that I knew that I was able to say, but by trusting it, the words came out of the wanting to be open to what I wasn't able to imagine yet. I wasn't able to imagine what the words would bring forth.
mm,
So it's almost been deepening that experience is by kind of a confidence or a courage to let the space be bigger between even the words or between us, that I'm not communicating from words. I want to communicate qualities, and they're not my qualities, but that the quality of the listening, not to me, but to the unsayable, is greater than the other times or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And that's um, that's all right. It doesn't matter about the words again. It's the softening the fear of not knowing into the knowing, or what is emerging, what's emerging. That's more than the sum of our parts, and I think that's a condition that I have been judging as a human condition. I thought it was me, that my human condition was not uh, good enough, is a word that it like quantifies a value. So again, it's like really by invitation. I'm not inviting. I'm not doing the inviting. I'm not even doing the encouragement. But it's like the softer I get with the fear, something else opens up in me that I would not be able to unsay. I would not be able to have the words for the experience, the potential for being in that space. But I love it. I just love it. I love I love that others, um, whether it's the collective that makes the experience, I don't know, but I love just experiencing. I don't know what, it doesn't matter the words. It's not kindness. It's not, maybe grace. I don't know. It's something that's it feels better than I started off with by
Wow.
by risking. So gratitude and love and all of those things. Thank you.
Pauline, I just felt it so strongly when you said, I love it. I love it. I don't know if it's the collective that helps me do it, but I felt like you were describing the feeling of what we call the focusing attitude, or this relational freedom, or the softening the fear. And when you said, I love it, I could just feel that.
Yes, yes, yes. And that was just my experience. I hope others reminded. It doesn't matter. I'm putting too much words in there now. So thank you. Thanks, Liz. Yeah. Or Lynn and Liz for initiating this. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And Dorothy's going to say a few words.
When you're muted, everything is unsayable.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Jim. Okay, I just had my expression. That's all you got was my facial expression of excitement and just wanting to connect and share. Um, but the words behind them, now you'll get. Unsayable brings out a lot of different thoughts and emotions for me. I just feel like it's been sort of the ethos of my growing up experience, the unsayable. And one area where this comes out really strongly for me is in my evangelical fundamentalist Christianity upbringing. And um, recently I started to re explore an experience I had as a 11-year-old of being what they call in the evangelical community being saved. Um, and in writing about that experience, I realized that the unsayable for me, like I'm still in the grips of a childhood experience. In writing about it, putting on paper, and then actually sharing it with a few people, um, I came to the realization that the unsayable for me moves back and forth to my adult self that moves a little bit closer to the sayable. But there's like this pull from childhood that is has such a strong energy. And in writing about a very key experience in childhood, um, made me realize the pull of a childhood experience on my current way of being. It's always been a thread. I have the awareness is there, um, but now with all the work I've done, um, it's the power of the unsayable for me still has its link to childhood experiences, and still the term unformulated experience, it was like when I read about that, Lynn, as you brought it up today, and when I remember reading about it, it's it's how do I say it? It's like that's my experience, that there's still an unformulated piece in all of this that leaves me with a longing. What is it? What is it? What is it? I don't even know what I can't say because it's still not formulated. That's what I'm coming to. Thank you for letting me try to formulate this thought.
This that feeling of what is it? What is it? It's like something that wants to the go into that mystery. And is it right to say, Dorothy, I don't know if I got this right, that the unformulated, the unsayable, was too big to say, or was it prohibited to say? I think those are so different. Something that's so big and complicated and mysterious that you can't say it, or something that feels like you're not allowed to think that or say that.
I think it's both. I think the child, I do believe that every age of our lives still has a place inside of our psyche. And my 11-year-old has a very strong place. Um, and I do think sometimes she dominates. And so um, that's the part of me that feels in that community, I couldn't say that that wasn't my experience. Everybody around me interpreted my walking down that aisle to that song as me
Mm.
being saved. But inside
Ah,
of me, that was not my experience. But I could
ah,
never say that in front of that whole group of people that were
right,
so
right, right, right. I
joyous at what
get
was
it.
happening to me. So
Yeah.
that's definitely alive inside of me, that 11-year-old that can't talk
Mm,
about it.
yeah.
And and even when I read the story to a small group of people, I felt like I was going to choke.
Mm,
Like it just surprised me. It was in
mm,
the sharing of it, not so much in the writing, but in the sharing of it, where
mm,
that feeling of what you just said, the unsayable, that I couldn't speak my experience.
Mm.
And then that other piece you said that was helpful to me, that it's feels so big even to this day that I can't quite formulate what this is all about.
Mm. Yeah, yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, need just that little pause and take all of that in. Each person is giving us a world of unsayableness. And Jim, do you have anything to add here?
That's a good question. What if I don't? Is that sayable?
Yeah, it is.
We're here taking turns and talking about the unsayable. There's uh, a structure to what's going on here, and all groups, all gatherings have this structure. Sometimes it's an acknowledged structure, sometimes it's an unacknowledged structure. My experience being in groups is often, what's going on here? Why are people talking about this? Is this what I want to be talking about? And if not, why not? Is something the matter with me? Do these people all know how to participate and I don't? People often talk about making a group safe, that in certain groups are unsafe, they can't express themselves. And usually the next step is, well, how do we make it safe? Well, we can have rules for safety. Rules will make a group safe. Typical rule will be don't interrupt somebody speaking, or reflect what they say afterwards, or nobody can speak until everybody else has spoken once already. You can't speak a second time. These are the kind of rules people make up. But for me, there's already so many rules there that to add a few more seems like it's missing the point. The rules that are already there already tell you so much about what you can say and what you can't say, and they tend to be invisible. And by invisible, I mean the same way as when you walk into a room and sit down on a chair, you don't have to say, what's a chair? You know what a chair is, and you know what sitting is, and you know why you came into the room, and you don't even have to formulate any of that. It's just habit. It's part of who you are. It's part of your life. And all these things are operating all the time. And it makes what is sayable at any point very constricted. It may not feel constricted. It may feel normal, but it's constricted. And in fact, that's partially how AI works. In AIs know how to speak to you because they're always saying the word that's most probably goes in that spot. And what is meant by most probably? They trained on large amounts of data, and the word that follows the word that just came before is going to be this one, because most of the time, or a good enough percentage of the time, that's the next word. They have no idea what they're saying, but they know how to follow the rules. And by following the rules, they become intelligible. And if you don't follow the rules, you become unintelligible. Luckily, I followed them, so you understand what I'm talking about. I hope.
Get the feeling of a world of so many invisible lines, all making a grid and stepping carefully over the lines or staying within the lines makes you intelligible.
And there's also, once there's a line, there are only two choices. You're either on the left side of the line or the right side of the line. The line already divides things up so much and restricts things so much that even the existence of the line makes so much unsayable.
Yes. So we've had this journey of all these images and visions of the land of unsayableness. And let us give ourselves a moment to just see how that all fits. How does what Pauline said, what Jim said, what I said, what Dorothy said, what Liz said, what does it stir in you? And then let's just continue this conversation. What came up for you with all of these thoughts? Somebody has their hand up, Susan, but I don't see her. There she is.
Here I am. Yes, I
Hi,
had to put
Susan.
my hand up. Thank you. After Jim spoke, I had such a positive thank you, Jim, for being in the world reaction. Oh my God, that was so great for me. So I want to say two specific things that happened to me. One thing was that last week at my new job, someone was very first week, second week, so the one of the main people was moved to call me up. And I was like, uh-oh, am I in trouble? And it was so positive. It was a thank you for saying the unsayable because they had a Zoom, the tech broke, and when they came back on, I made a joke like, oh, the patient died while we were waiting. And they loved it because it broke the ice. And they said there are so many people in the corporate world that are afraid to say anything at all. And you have all this confidence and you can say this thing. And may I stay with that reaction from them for the year, like I stayed with the negative from my last job. Whereas Jim so clearly and brilliantly said there were all these said rules that somehow I broke, like even expressing frustration or protest was so horrible in that context. And I was the one that was, you know, labeled, put her in the corner as she's socially, ruinous to us, like which I stayed with for a year and I felt ashamed until still, even now, people know here I've been working it out for the year. And then when Jim spoke, I thought, oh, I won't be alone in this world. I could be with Jim, like, and some of that shame went away. So may I stay with this new thing that this person said to me as long as I dwelled on the other. So that's one thing. Second thing is I have a current dilemma right now on the unsayable because I put forth a funny Purim script for Purim, which is, you make fun of it. It's the story of how some ice guy wanted to get power and he was going to do it by demonizing the Jews in Persia so many years ago. It's on the Book of Esther. And there's a point in the script where the bad guy goes to the king and says, hey, there's these Jews that won't bow down to you. And they do well on the SATs and they want health care for everyone. And he said a few more stereotypes. But they won't, that's beside the point. They're rude and they won't bow down to you. And I had a woman say to me, an educator, you shouldn't have that. That line brings laughs. And they said you shouldn't say that line because if you repeat stereotypes, people believe them. And I said, well, this is, I felt this is unsaying the unsayable, and it's making people able to laugh at it. And we know people have, and we ourselves have all these prejudices, and we're allowed to give a voice to them and laugh at it. And she was like, even so, the research, she brought more research. And so now I have to make a decision about whether to keep that line in or whether to take it out because it might offend somebody. Anyway, I welcome any thoughts on this if you're still listening. Thank you for listening. I felt like I went on too long.
That's one of those things that's so difficult, right? It's like you threw us two balls and then you worried like, oh, we wouldn't still be listening to the second ball. And
Well,
that
they're hard,
feel,
yeah.
right? That feeling of, oh, maybe I said something too much or something unsayable. Yeah. So it's one experience of exhilaration of being affirmed in saying the unsayable, and being with Jim, like, oh, I'm not alone. And then this other experience of somebody questioning the edge there.
And the terror of the first one was that's why it's so Jim so comforted me because the terror is you'll be cast out from the community. You'll have nobody, you know.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's to be cast out from the community.
What came to me, Susan, is the healing power of humor.
The healing power of humor.
Yes, you can sit with your artistic license and you probably have very good instincts.
And I see a hand up, but I can't see who it is.
Yeah, this is Priyanka.
Yeah. Okay.
So, Lynn, this was really the thing that you said in the beginning. It really touched me because I had an experience recently where I met this person and my entire body, and they've never done anything to me, or I don't even know them that well, but my entire body and everything went into like a disgust response. And I had this thought in my head, oh, this person is so manipulative and slimy, and I had no evidence cognitively for it, but that's how my body was reacting. And then a part of me was so heavy and I felt so downcast because I want to be able to love everyone. And I can't even say to myself that I'm that kind of person who looks at someone and just dislikes them for no reason. I can't even say it to myself because I want to have this image of myself as this compassionate person, loving, whatever. And I really loved someone. I think it was Liz or Pauline, I don't remember, who said that that it's so big. This is so big for me because I'm faced with my own limitation of, and I'm not even able to articulate it even to myself. I'm so afraid to go there, even to myself. So it just brought up to me this thing that we have also unsayable things that we don't even say to our own selves. It's in our relation to ourselves. It doesn't have to even involve another person.
Yeah, even saying to ourselves something that feels like it casts us out of a community, and then you found it really liberating to talk about it, to talk about, sometimes you can't say the thing, but you can say the experience of trying to say the thing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
experience of trying to that there's something you want to say gives you liberation. It's this relational freedom that we're after. Would people help call on people who are raising their hands and help reflect here?
Marvin has his hand raised.
Yes, Marvin.
Hello, everyone, and thank you. Part of the experience from is to stay with the person who is expressing, and it can be quite challenging to stay with a person. For me, uh, easier in some circumstances and less easier in some circumstances. But then I realized maybe there's also, do I stay also with me? Am I in connection with myself also? Uh, very, very tricky. Uh, it's as if I'm not with you, someone who is expressing, uh, I'm torn between between staying with me and whatever is happening inside of me, and honoring the fact that someone is expressing something. It's a bit of a tension. And the sharing. And last thing I would say is to go back to what has been expressed, is some things might not be good to say, not because it would offend, but sometimes it stops a process.
Yeah.
It can be an inner process, my inner understanding building, and I stop the process, and then I stop it there, make a conclusion, so I stop here. Or I can, if I mean, I don't do therapy, I do coaching, but if I'm in a coaching situation, sometimes I have to force myself to tell the person, don't speak, don't say a word, keep that for you and in you. Just don't pour it out just now. Take it inside. As if it was important to let the process continue without interrupting it, but by saying. Okay.
Yes, thank you, Marvin. It brings in a whole other dimension of something being unsayable, not because it's threatening to the rules of the culture or something, but because it's stopping a process. And it's a kind of sensitivity of, oh, hold that back. It's such a different feeling, I think, inside to hold something back because it's going to stop the process. It's going to be damaging to something that's trying to come and be born. And the feeling of holding something back because it's taboo in some way, or it it uh, uh, it will be unacceptable somehow. I mean, there are so many different kinds of holding back, and the holding back because you don't want to stop the process is much more empowered holding back. It's not like you can't even think it, but it's like you're taking charge and saying, oh no, this needs to be like the orchestra conductor held back so this can happen. Yeah.
It looks like Jadina has her hand up.
I just would like to say that this is a beautiful topic, theme. How did you ever come up with it? It's really so important from the past, politically, to the present, to the future, everything. Um, I was really touched by everybody. I could relate to everybody. One thing that Dorothy was saying about, let me see, I wrote it down. Oh, not being able to formulate. When Dorothy, when you were 11, and how that can still be here. And it reminded me of that, the field, the murky field that we need to go to with the felt sense. And my relationship with that is the fear that if I, and it happens sometimes, always actually, when I'm in that field, I'm afraid I will stay there forever. Nothing will ever come. And then, of course, all the pressure from outside, but it feels like it will never come. And so I've worked with it is I just have to jump in. Just jump in. Rarely does something actually just arise. And when it does, it's quite extraordinary.
Mm.
Yeah. So that's, and the other thing is that I loved is Priyanka, if I'm saying that right, was saying that, and it just touched me so deeply. I want to love everyone. Uh, it's hard to say that.
It's hard to say that.
Yeah. And it does, it goes back to childhood and the collective and everything. I almost feel in my childhood, I was not allowed to even be that love.
Mm. Wow.
And almost all the good qualities. I could actually be the negative ones.
Oh, that's so interesting. Isn't it that the unsayable for you is, I want to love everyone, and you weren't allowed to say that, feel that, be that. Wow.
Exactly.
Thank you.
I see
Eric.
I see Eric's hand, but
Yeah.
Eric, it's BJ. Could I step ahead of you and say something to Jadina, please? Thank you. Uh, Jadina, thank you so much for being willing to say the unsayable. That your vulnerability in that moment is just so important for me relating with you. It's just so beautiful to hear you speak from that place that's unsayable.
Mhm.
And what it reminds me of is the unsayable that is unsayable because it's reverent,
Mhm.
because it is so vital to the life process that we can't say the word God, for example, in some traditions. And that's there too. So in my spiritual direction clientele, sometimes I say to them, um, if and Lynn, the word unsayable has been so helpful for me. If something is unsayable, maybe it's because there's something so precious at the core of it. And that shifts from it being hostile or negative or, disgusting to say what is so precious. And then I heard you, Dorothy, uh, talking around that as well. That's what I heard, that your experience, as a little kid, there was something so precious. And there's something so precious about that experience of being saved, but not if it's something that's being pushed on you by your community. And there's this disgustingness to it. So, anyway, I'm glad to be here. Thank you, everyone. And also, Pauline, I just wish we had a million years so you could say more. I could just feel so much more coming out. Thank you, Eric. Yeah.
Thank you, PJ. Thank you. Eric.
So good to be here. Um, when Marvin, when you were speaking, I was reminded of something that I need, and I need it right now. So it isn't just a memory of something. When I thought about it, saying it, I realized, oh, and it was something my teacher said to community. He didn't say it to me particularly. It was, if you want to control a rambunctious cow, give her an enormous meadow to run around in. And in order to stay in me, when I'm with you, Paul, or to speak to you, I need to give me an enormous meadow. And as I say it, it's like, oh. And then it's almost like floating. I don't have to know. Buoyant. So I don't know if that's more than one ball, but I'm trying for one.
I love that image of the enormous field. But it seemed like you were saying it to Marvin. Is that right?
Uh,
Or did I
we,
did I miss that?
well, I, Marvin was talking about the need at times to kind of encourage a shift, or
Right,
one
to
term is a
pull
cutting off, but the
back.
cutting off
Right.
term is, it's a little harsh, and I don't think we're talking about that. There's a way of holding and loving and scaffolding while we redirect a little bit. And Len, you did that with me in another environment when you said, "Oh, you've gone so far into yourself. Come back and be with me." So I clearly went inside, which is a bit like focusing. I wasn't really focusing per se. But I wasn't with you. I was attending to me. And that you did change and interrupt what I was doing, but it was a delight. And it feels like there are so many more opportunities to be authentic and true and help and redirect each other a bit. but also there's that meta, which is we don't have to mess with it. And from the meta, we're not messing with it, we're being authentic.
So there's this meadow where we can just let the cow run around and have lots of space. And then there's the redirecting, or I think Marvin was talking about holding back something himself so that something tender could be said. And maybe in a way we're talking about that process of when do you take a little step to say more, which is the sort of claiming of a step of relational freedom. If you can't say the whole thing, to say something more. When do you sort of hold it yourself so that the other person can say, and such a delicate process of saying
Zoom?
the
I'll be done
unsayable.
soon and I'll get you stuff.
Am I speaking to your point, Eric?
Yes. And I'm thinking of a client who comes and he really needs to talk. And yet he loses both of us, it seems. And if I just am with him, there's a point where there's a sense that something is built and I've been holding. And I might say, can I say, ask permission, can I say this? I want to feel you. And can you slow down a little for me? Because I'm losing feeling you. And I think what he really wants is that connection and that tenderness. I wouldn't think that. I'm not thinking that in the moment, but I'm saying it now. And he kind of goes, oh, oh.
It's this partnership of saying a little more, holding back, saying, but not losing when you're holding back, not losing it for yourself. But okay, but I think that we need to go into breakout rooms now because there are unsayable things that we can't just say because there's too many of us to all say them, and you can say them better to a few people than to a lot of people. So let's go into breakout rooms for 15 minutes and then we'll come back. And thank you all. We have such a big landscape here of the landscape of saying and not saying and saying more.
Thank you to you all from the planning committee who spoke so beautifully this morning. Liz, Jim, Dorothy, Paulina, did I miss somebody?
I'm aware that Katerina is not here this morning, and I know I wanted to lift up her name as someone who's very important in the background of helpers.
Mm-hmm.
Very true.
I just missed that. What did you say, BJ?
Rachel was modeling gracious interaction by thanking everybody on the planning committee. And I wanted to also name Katerina, who's not here as an important background person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for saying that.
Yes, absolutely. Katerina does so much work for us. It's amazing. And good thinking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And she has to get up at 5 in the morning or something. Something terrible. So how was your breakout rooms?
Good.
I wanted to say that if it's okay, Alexandra, suggested that we talk about at some point shame and the
Oh,
connection of
yeah.
shame and the unsayable. And I thought that was a wonderful idea. It's so tied to the unsayable.
Yes,
Mhm.
it's so tied. Absolutely.
Well, I guess I didn't use that word, but that was kind of what all my words were about.
Mhm.
Who can
Mhm.
I be here? What can I do? Who can I be and not be shunned? I mean, it's all about shame without
Yeah.
saying that.
It's shame and threat, I feel like like being not just shamed, but I don't know, Liz, if this is putting words in your mouth, but there's shamed and there's also will you like kind of kill the relationship if you say, hey, can you slow down? Or hey, can in a focusing relationship, I'm really sensitive to being interrupted. I need you to listen to me ramble on for 45 minutes before you get a word in edgewise. That's how I experience safety and love, or whatever your thing is, you know. Um, it's so hard to assert for me, I'll say it's so hard to assert my needs without the threat that I'm going to like kill the other person emotionally, that I will cause like devastating harm if I'm like I need more space, or in a regular relationship or in a focusing relationship to assert. And I had this thought while people were talking, that you know that thing for kids, oh, I think it's also for terrorism, which they go together. Now you have to have it from like everybody needs to know, like if you see something, say something. And I felt like, could we have, if you like felt sense something, say something? Because if you went into things with that sort of rule up front, it would almost be like Anne Weiser Cornell. It's a part, or I am tasked with saying this. It's part of my job here. And like, I don't usually have that permission, or don't give myself that permission. It feels like I will devastate the other person if I say, do you mind moving over a little bit? Something as banal as that, if I assert a need, or that I will, they'll feel rejected or abandoned or so harmed, and there'll be an insurmountable disconnect that I won't be able to remedy, and I'll be then ostracized and abandoned and so forth. So it's this really complicated thing to say in an intimate relationship. No, stop, move over.
And can I add to that that um that calculation, even if it's, not entirely conscious, that tension of being in that relationship, just always having it hovering around, is this
Mhm.
okay? Is okay, now I'm okay this second, but the next
Mhm.
second I'm, just living in that state,
Mhm.
makes it very difficult to be around people, in anything more than a superficial way.
That metaphor, walking on eggshells, is so apt. I mean, imagine really walking on eggshells all the time. And
Mhm.
uh, Rachel, you were also distinguishing the fear of hurting the other person, and also and the shame, the sense of shame, being shamed, and being rejected, being ostracized, being.
Mhm.
seen as bad.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
I'm
really.
thinking of, oh, I'm sorry, Rachel. I didn't
I was
realize
just going to
you
say
were
it's
done.
like the threat of doing harm, and then the threat of being shamed, basically. And it's maybe more than being shamed, because it's also, but shame is definitely implicit when you're ostracized, and you're also kind of in danger if you don't have access to your mom or community because you've displeased her or asserted yourself, and you're not supposed to distinguish yourself or oppose her boundaries or her wishes or something like that. It's tough. Yeah, and it is exhausting to be always in that inner turmoil about navigating relationships. I see why being a shut-in is kind of appealing.
Relating is very, very difficult. That's why Jean says, we haven't made it yet there as a species. We're just on the cusp of learning relating. It's such a difficult, delicate dance. But I think it's time for our poem. And we're going to be talking about this all month in different ways. It's funny that we chose the month of Valentine's Day to talk about unsayables. Yeah. Okay. Dorothy.
Thank you. The Unsayable by Sherman Alexie. Letting the brakes breaks us is what breaks us. So you must say the thing that you're not supposed to say. You must shout your truth. But wait, haven't you noticed how completely that you and your allies have reached agreement on the things that are supposedly unsayable? I'm not talking about slurs or insults. I'm thinking of those things that theoretically speak to power. But what if you and your friends are the power? Woe to the thinker who contradicts their clan and kin. Have you noted how often that you and your compatriots have saluted one another for saying the things that are reputed to be unsayable? During the marches and meetings, the unsayable things are said so often that they become mere cliches. So here's the truth. The unsayable thing, when said, should add debt to your accounts payable. I know you carry opinions that might get you exiled from your tribe if you say them aloud. Nobody wants to be reviled by the crowd. Each of us is the child who learned long ago that silence is the best defense. People tend to assume that I'm brave, but I go mute just as often as any of you. I'm also scared to say, to even whisper, the things that might get me shunned. That's my tongue nailed to the canvas on the museum wall. I've already fallen like Lucifer fell, and I don't want to fall anymore. But please allow me to say a few more words before I go. Dear readers, you might believe that you're the exception. You might claim to be the only one who pulls back the dark like the morning sun. But don't kid yourself. You could have written this autobiographical poem just as honestly and dishonestly as I've done.
Yeah. Beautiful. The
Lee?
experience of unsayableness. Okay, so next week we're talking about one of the subjects that's difficult to talk about, which is religion. So maybe you could think about what is sayable and what is unsayable about religion, and
Lynn?
yeah, how do we have trouble talking about it? Okay.
Lynn?
Yeah. Yes, yes, Lip.
Would you allow me 30 seconds?
Excuse me.
Would you allow me 30 seconds? Oh, you're done.
30 seconds.
30 seconds. Yes.
One word. One word. Fusion. Fusion.
Fusion.
Like when shame and judgment are fused, or when will and power are fused. Fusion.
Fusion.
Yes.
Yes, they're put together when say
Exactly.
it again, when shame
And judgment.
and judgment are put together,
Yes.
fused.
And when will and power are put together.
When will
Will
and
and
power
are put
are
together.
put together.
Okay.
Yeah. I hope you say more about that next week too. It's a very powerful image and inviting. I want to go there and see what happens when you put those together. Okay. Bye-bye, everybody. See you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.